The sole purpose of this short and simple video is to hail my good friend Pavithran and to thank him for participating so regularly, attentively, meaningfully, and creatively in this series of videos aimed at promoting, if possible, a culture of thinking rationally, objectively, dispassionately, which I believe is the need of the hour. For one thing, the consumerist culture has shifted the emphasis from the brain to the stomach. For another, if and when people think today, truth becomes a casualty, and partisan thinking creates more problems than it solves, and results therefore in the further impoverishment of our collective or shared life. I started a temple of thoughts mainly to address this cultural and human poverty. And when I started this enterprise, I was very sure that I have no right to expect anything more than a lukewarm response, because the predominant taste in our society is towards the more lurid, sensational, and violent. Everything that bypasses the brain, as it were. After all, as studies one after the other have proved, violence suppresses human thought, and the tendency to resort to violence signals a collapse of our social imagination. And that's our social disease as well. So, a temple of thought was initiated in order to have a therapeutic or healing influence on the society in this respect. Therefore, I was quite content to be with a very small group of people, perhaps not more than 500, 600. But over the last 4 years, numerically, we have grown into some 26,000 people. But those who participated it regularly and actively are very few, which doesn't matter to me all that much. It does matter up to a point. But what really encourages me is the quality of responses that a temple of thought as a confluence of thinking minds registers from time to time. I'm sure about one thing. Even though a temple of thoughts is a very small YouTube fellowship, it is today incomparable, rich in one respect, and that is the quality of responses. Now, I suggest the following to you. What do you think makes me happier? Making and posting these videos, or going through the meaningful and enriching responses I receive from wonderful brothers and sisters like you? If you really want to get an answer, think of a farmer who goes out to sow the seed. And then, of course, also the same farmer who gathers the harvest. Which is a more joyous season, this seed sowing season or the ingathering of the harvest? I dare say it is the latter. Therefore, for me, the more rewarding, enriching, the happier experience is not that of making and posting these videos, but that of going through the wonderful, enriching responses I have received from so many of you. And Pavithran is one among them. I have, in a previous video, acknowledged my very, very good friend Murugeshan and Al-Falak. And today it's my great privilege and wonderful personal happiness to acknowledge Pavithran, whom I had already acknowledged before. But when I saw this response that he posted to the video I shared yesterday, Lent, War and Peace, It was actually a talk I delivered to a group of people in Mumbai. And I cannot but share the words of Pavithran that he posted in the inbox of our YouTube channel. Now, without any further introduction, let me take you through the text of Pavithran's response. He says, or he writes, "Your Lenten reflection is the true feast for thought. Thank you for this wonderful exhortation, calling us to transcend social conditioning, to think out of the box, as Jesus did in the wilderness. You invite a profound shift from mere abstinence to a banquet of the word, from simply keeping Lent to truly thinking Lent." I'm glad Pavithran caught that shift in emphasis that I was pleading for. It is through God's word that we rise above our raw intellectual energies. Your insight is striking. Unilateral action, ignoring the other, lies at the root of war, theft, and violence, while reciprocity and fellowship reflect the very nature of the divine. Unilateralism becomes a form of domination out of harmony with God. In contrast, the cross of Christ stands as the ultimate expression of mutuality and self-giving love in a deeply, brutally unilateral world. You challenge us to move beyond manipulation, incessant speaking to God, and parasitic dependence on God toward silent listening, meaningful contribution, and a more reflective Lenten journey. In doing so, we are invited to step out of the dark dungeon of unilateralism into the expansive universe of mutuality, a deeply timely and transformative message for Lent. That's what Pavithran has written. And this is no exaggeration for me to say that each word is to me like a drop of honey. As a teacher who tried a lifetime to train young people in the art of writing, whenever I come across a text that is well written, I consider that to be a great feast of my mind. I enjoy the style of writing. I enjoy the beauty of thinking. I respect clarity in comprehension and communication, all of which bespeak an educated mind. And my dear friends, I have to say this with all the emphasis that I can command, that there is no greater achievement than acquiring or cultivating a clear and well-trained mind. But that happens only through cultivating noble tastes in the mental world. We're living at a time when there's a lot of polluting stuff available in the internet. I don't want to go into those details. What attracts you tells you who you are. Correspondingly, what discomposes you, what irritates you, or what causes your patience to run out also tells you who you are. If you're a person interested in ideas, you'll certainly have absorbing interest in a video that seeks to introduce a stream of thought. In this context, it is relevant for me to state that the people in this world can be classified into three categories. The first category, which comprises the vast majority of people, are things-oriented people. They're interested almost entirely on things. For example, they derive a lot of psychological satisfaction in shopping, and most of which nugatory or gratuitous shopping. That is, shopping that's not exactly warranted by the needs that are to be met. People just go and do psychological shopping. shopping driven by their psychology rather than by the needs at home. And such people are things oriented people, or if you give them something, they feel greatly excited, very grateful. You can see their face lighting up. So that's the first category of people. The second category of people are people oriented people. They're relationship oriented, they're interested in fellow human beings. The people who are interested in things will not be interested in people. If at all they pretend to be interested in people, it's not the truth about them. The truth is they're interested only in the things that they can get out of people. Whereas the second category of people are genuinely interested in individuals and they value relationships, which is a very good thing indeed, interpersonal relations. By the way, it's impossible to create and maintain stable and happy relationships with people in the first category, that is, things-oriented people. And this is something that young people ought to mind. The people in the third category are the rarest. They're ideas-oriented people. For them, thinking is a very welcome, enriching, happy experience. They never feel impatient with anything that invites them or stimulates them to think. So if you feel exasperated, irritated, impatient with anything that contains ideas, please understand that is a reflection on yourself. On the contrary, if you feel stimulated by a video or a book or whatever that stimulates you to think, that encourages and challenges you to think, that actually cudgels your brain, then rest assured that you belong to a very small, privileged group of people called ideas-oriented people. And I believe that a society which contains at least 5 to 10% of ideas-oriented people, or even 1% ideas-oriented people, is a healthy society. Whether or not Kerala belongs to that bracket, I don't know. But it's my ardent prayer that the thinking culture in Kerala should grow and develop. That's the one thing Kerala needs today. Kerala is in the present state not because we are short either of natural resources or of human resources in terms of skills, etc. We are short primarily in one thing, and that's the capacity to think and think objectively. Look at our politics. Look at our religiosity. Look at the general culture. Look at the way institutions are run. Look at the way interpersonal relationships are collapsing. Look at the disarray in families. All this pertains to one problem. We have lost the capacity to think and think objectively, rationally. It is this quality, the rare quality, that I find in Pavithran's words. The same thing I find in Murugeshan's words, in Alphalak's words, in the words of several others who have responded and who continue to respond. Either in writing in this manner, some of them really called me on the phone and we discussed matters, and I feel greatly refreshed through those discussions, in spite of the fact that today I'm not in a position to carry on with a long conversation on the phone. I still feel enriched and blessed through these conversations. So even though we are a very small group of people, I still feel amply rewarded by the fact that the quality of the responses that these videos receive from time to time are a far greater reward than I actually deserve. And therefore my heart overflows with gratitude and affection for Pavithran and others like him. And I want them to know that it is their interest and their solidarity with the cause that we have come together to serve that keeps me going. And therefore, they're as responsible for the continuation of this mission to propagate a culture of thinking in Kerala and maybe the wider society in India as I am through my daily labors. So thank you, Pavithran, for your interest as well as your enlightened responses. It's very obvious from your every word that you write, that you are a good reader and you read widely and in a varied fashion. You read attentively in an involved fashion, or you read thinkingly. You also pay attention to the beauty of organizing your ideas, the style of articulating your insights, and something that I greatly value in you is your patience to stay with a video of 40, 50 minutes. The particular video that Pavithran responded to in this post in the inbox was 53 minutes old. 53 minutes long. And it's very clear that he has listened to that video from start to finish without his attention wavering even a second. Now that shows where Pavithran stands. And how can I not love him and respect him? So thank you once again. And may you continue to participate. In fact, I would very humbly and fervently invite you to be a partner with me in this mission so that we can do joint videos on subjects of mutual interest and general concern. So if you're inclined, please get in touch. You know my contact number. I have shared it on many occasions. I don't want to repeat. But at any rate, be assured that your presence and participation are greatly appreciated, valued, respected. Thank you. All the very best.